Well, it's been a while since I filmed one of these, and I apologise. I have been away for the last few weeks doing a bit of travelling with some mates for both a birthday and a very difficult hike, which we did, which I'll go into in another video maybe. But the reason for making this video today is I actually have got my first set of samples for my supplement business. And so the reason I'm actually making a video on this is just for those people who are actually looking back at these videos and want to see the process and the thought process and system I went through in my head, of course, of how I'm judging my samples, what I'm actually looking at. And this doesn't just apply to supplements exactly, because that would be very niche, but how you can actually go about analyzing your samples and communicating with your manufacturer on what you actually want for your business. Because it's super important that when you're actually starting out, creating your brand in your product, you need to make sure you can find someone who's aligned with your vision long term. And so part of that is having someone who can show that they're aligned with what you want through how they present themselves in terms of what samples they provide you based off the information you gave them. And then on top of that as well, also how well they take on your feedback and make pivots and slight changes into the product itself from your feedback. So that's super critical, which I'm only starting to learn now, which is why I want to push it onto the video now, because it's fresh in my mind. Anyway, I take a tangent, but back to what I was saying. Supplements came in, the samples, and so I tried them this morning, a few different flavors to actually make the herbal formula taste a little bit better. So we had berry, coffee, and chocolate. I only just wanted the berry, but he added the other ones in just to actually just give me a bit more of a wider perspective. And I can humbly say that I was wrong, because obviously having more different variations of flavors would have been a good thing to actually at least consider, just to see in terms of price per unit, and then also to see what might actually taste nice, because the berry didn't actually end up tasting good, but we're working on that. So what it is important for me to say from that, rather than just blurting out useless junk, is that it's important you make sure you know what you want, because obviously when it comes to analyzing your samples, if you don't know what you want, there's no point getting samples, because otherwise you're just going to sit here and you can't critique it. Because the only reason I can critique what I'm looking at or what I'm tasting in terms of the supplements is because I have a picture in my mind of what I'm trying to get. So for example, me wanting the berry flavor, I pictured this nice red purpley drink, purpley powder, tastes a bit more like a berry. There's not really so overpowering of the herb taste, and it's easy to dissolve in water. So because I've got that structure, that skeleton of what I want for the ideal product, it's very easy for me to determine what the quality of the sample is, obviously. And so then from testing my samples, I found that maybe the smell of the powder was a bit off, the texture wasn't okay, and it didn't dissolve very well, and the flavor wasn't really on point. So at the moment, boxes aren't really getting ticked, but that's okay, because this is the process. And I realize now that if I do this now, put the hard yards in now rather than later, it's much easier for me to bear the fruits of my hard work in the years to come, instead of starting this later because I'm impatient or I want to try and get a quick fix of a financial situation, because obviously this is a much bigger business model that I want in the long term. And so for me to make a really tall skyscraper, using a metaphor, I want a really tall building, I need a really strong foundation. So these sample processes and actually being able to get my sample on point to exactly what I want, and then also try and improve it along the way, that's the most critical thing for me to do at the moment. And I'm actually glad that I know that, rather than just arrogantly just pushing forward, just trying to get a product out regardless of the quality. Because at the end of the day, the way I see it is I want to put something out there that I would buy myself. And so I wouldn't half-ass a product and then expect myself to buy it. That's just stupid logic for me to try and think I would do that, or for anyone to do that, for example. I'm just going to put that there. So basically now, the next update would probably be any mindset shifts in between that I'd find, or any interesting things. I've actually read quite a few books since I've last done a video, so I might do a video on some of the things that I've taken away from that book. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, probably a good book for someone to read if they're looking for that mindset shift. There's also one here, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. That's actual super game changer in terms of seeing similar principles you might see in philosophy, but in a different light, coming from a different perspective. Because typically, obviously, philosophy is more of a philosopher perspective, whereas this one's more from a Buddhist monk perspective, which is super cool to see how they sort of link and, I guess, cross-reference each other. And then there's more one here tying in. It's called The Limitation of Christ. Obviously, being someone strongly connected to my faith, that's something that just I instantly drew towards because I haven't read a religious book before. So that was a super interesting read that I actually spontaneously picked up. Now, this is all probably useless information for people at the moment. What to do with samples, what my thought process is, also some of the books that I've been reading. These are things that people don't want to hear at the moment. It's not entertaining, it's raw footage, it's very boring, and communicating is not necessarily the greatest thing that I'm performing at the moment. But the reason for me getting it out there is, like I've said in other videos, is that one day people will watch this because one day it will be valuable. I don't care about people watching it now. I couldn't care less if people unsubscribed now or started commenting, get off your high horse, or, who do you think you are posting these videos? It doesn't bother me because the reality is that this is more of a long-term investment, not just for myself, but the fact that people will find value in hearing how I got from like here to here in metaphorical sense, because there's not much out there of that. And especially with what I've tried to build with my business model, there's not much to go off. It's just the typical guru stuff for dropshipping, and then obviously saturation of self-improvement stuff. So really, this is just more trying to do the small things to add up and compound, because it's a real thing. Compounding effect it's a real thing. And I'm a true believer in that, and I think that eventually this will pay off. Maybe one video might blow up, maybe it won't, I don't care. But one day, people will look back on these and actually try and pick apart, or at least try and see if my situation can relate to them. And truly, if one day, 5 years' time, someone clicks on this video and actually genuinely has a mindset shift or a breakthrough in the problem they have, and it takes them to the next step, or even, blows their business to the moon, if it helps them in the slightest, that's what this video is for. That's what all these videos are for. So that was probably a bit more of a rant rather than an objective focus on my samples. But I needed to get that out because it's been a while since I've recorded, and I enjoy recording and I enjoy improving on this kind of stuff, because eventually I want to do this stuff a bit more long term when I decide to quit my job and have a bit more free time to grow a brand and then also grow the business as well. So I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to try and edit this video together. Edit this video together and then put it up. Do a bit of reading, picked up this book before I left that I'm going to start, Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Heard it's an absolute amazing read because Robert Greene's just a good author. If you haven't read his stuff, 48 Laws of Power, Art of War, Laws of Human Nature, that kind of stuff. Super interesting reads that I really want to get around to because I've heard a lot of good things about. Anyway, I'm waffling on now, so I'm going to leave it there, and yeah, I'll keep people updated and see how we go from there. See ya.